If God is almighty, why is Satan still around? Has this question ever crossed your mind? It seems simple, but it hides a far greater mystery than we might imagine. It's not just about good versus evil or about a God who could end it all in an instant. There's something deeper at play, something that challenges our immediate understanding. What unfolds goes beyond a simple battle. It involves a cosmic drama where the very concepts of justice, freedom, and purpose are at stake. Are we expecting an act of power that effortlessly destroys the enemy? Maybe. But what if the answer you're looking for isn't the one you really need? What if the true meaning of this conflict is something we've completely overlooked? Get ready, because we're about to explore a secret that transcends brute strength, a mystery that isn't solved with swords or thunder but with something far more profound. It's not what you think, and maybe it's not what you want, but it's what you need to understand. Before humanity existed, there was an indescribable harmony. Heaven, a place of immaculate splendor, pulsed with the presence of countless celestial beings, all moved by pure devotion to the Creator. Among them, however, one stood out. He was admired, exalted for his beauty and intelligence, a shining figure among the angels. You were the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone adorned you: carnelian, chrysolite and emerald, topaz, onyx and jasper, lapis lazuli, turquoise and beryl. Your settings and mountings were made of gold. On the day you were created, they were prepared. You were anointed as a guardian cherub, for so I ordained you. You were on the holy mount of God. You walked among the fiery stones. You were blameless in your ways, from the day you were created. Yet, ambition began to consume his heart, until wickedness was found in you. Something silently took root within him, a desire to be more than he was created to be. I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit enthroned on the Mount of Assembly, on the utmost heights of Mount Zaphon. I will ascend above the tops of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. Paul, writing to the Thessalonians, calls this event the mystery of iniquity. This desire, initially imperceptible, grew into pride, and pride, in turn, created a chasm that separated the creature from his purpose. It wasn't enough to stand before the throne. He wanted the throne. He wasn't content to reflect divine glory. He wanted to be worshipped. Thus, what was once perfect became fractured. He defied the established order, and with seductive words, drew others into his distorted vision. Heaven, once a home of harmony, became the stage for a rebellion no one anticipated. But here arises the question that defies logic: why didn't God intervene immediately? Why didn't he crush this uprising the moment it began? After all, with a single act, he could have ended it all. The answer, however, lies not in power, but in freedom. Every angel was created with the power to choose, not as automatons but as conscious beings. The rebellion was not an accident but a deliberate choice, and, in a way, part of a greater purpose that still challenges our understanding. Here is where the true mystery begins to unfold. The Creator, who could have ended everything with a single act of his will, chose to let the rebellion run its course. Not due to a lack of power but because of something that transcends immediate rational conclusions. Justice, freedom, redemption, concepts intricately woven together in a way we cannot yet fully grasp. And so, instead of extinguishing the rebels, God allowed them to remain free, and the cosmic conflict became part of a much greater story, one whose ultimate resolution is still unknown. Imagine a universe where every being acts like a puppet, their thoughts pre-programmed, their steps carefully orchestrated by a higher force. There would be no rebellion, no disobedience, no pain. But there would also be no true love, no genuine loyalty. It would be a cold, meaningless cosmos where freedom was nothing more than an illusion. Yet the heart of the divine plan rests on a different foundation: choice. Not a forced or simulated choice, but an authentic one, where every decision, good or bad, carries the weight of responsibility and the inevitability of consequence. That's why the Creator, when granting angels and humans free will, knew he was taking a tremendous risk. The freedom to choose good also brings the possibility of choosing evil. Divine justice, then, does not manifest as absolute control but as a balance between power and mercy, between granting independence and ensuring that consequences are fair. Here lies the intriguing paradox. If God were to eliminate Satan right now once and for all, would he not be denying the very essence of the freedom he grants to all? Weakness, indifference, of course not. It is a love so immense that it risks pain to allow genuine love to flourish. Divine justice permits every choice to run its course, every action to reap its fruit, rather than being merely a matter of authority. Eliminating the enemy in an instant may seem like the simplest solution, but at what cost? Would it not compromise the freedom of those who chose good? Would it not destroy the trust that God is just and not a cosmic dictator? And more, would it truly be justice or merely a display of raw power? Here lies the greater mystery. God allows Satan and his angels to continue existing because something deeper is at stake, the demonstration that good triumphs through the power of love and justice, not brute force. Every moment the rebellion persists is another opportunity to prove that evil destroys itself, that wrong choices inevitably lead to ruin. God does not rush the end because time is an ally of truth. And so, the question remains, would immediate destruction solve the problem, or deny the very purpose for which we were all created? The battle between God and Satan goes far beyond any ordinary concept of rivalry or power struggle. It's not about determining who is stronger. The outcome of that question is already clear. God is sovereign. The real issue is much deeper and, in some ways, surprising. It's about revelation, a public unveiling where God's character is on trial before the entire universe. In the book of Job, we catch a glimpse of this truth behind the celestial scenes. One day the angels came to present themselves before the Lord. And who came with them? That's right, Satan. His name, actually a title, comes from the Hebrew ha-Satan, meaning the accuser or the adversary. At one point in the discussion, the enemy challenges, "Have you not put a hedge around him and his household and everything he has? You have blessed the work of his hands, but stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face." Do you recall how this scene begins with the angels presenting themselves before God? These angels represented the realms of the universe, and this assembly provided the perfect stage for Satan to broadcast his accusations, acting as a prosecuting attorney. Given his once exalted position in heaven, it's likely that many of God's children still admired and respected him. His argument wasn't just an attack on God's authority, it was an attempt to undermine his very essence, his justice, his goodness, his love. The cosmic conflict, then, serves as the stage where these accusations are answered, not through force but through actions, patience, and a plan that only eternity can fully reveal. Words alone cannot capture its depth. In this colossal drama, humanity is not merely a passive audience. We are not just distant observers, we are active participants in the story. Every choice we make, every act of faithfulness or rebellion, echoes in this cosmic battle, contributing to the final verdict. On a grander scale, Earth has become the courtroom where Satan's claims are tested and disproven. We are witnesses, but also protagonists. Our lives, struggles, and personal victories are pieces of a greater puzzle, and our decisions reveal where we truly stand. Perhaps the most perplexing question is time. Why does God allow this conflict to drag on for so long? To the hurried observer, it may seem as if God's plan is stalled, as if nothing is being done to end the suffering. But nothing could be further from the truth. God's plan is in full motion, following a timeline that transcends our immediate understanding. He does not act hastily, because the goal is not just to win, but to win decisively and undeniably. Every moment of apparent silence is, in reality, a demonstration of divine patience and an invitation to repentance. God does not desire destruction but transformation. When the end finally comes, and it will not be sudden or unexpected. It will be the carefully crafted culmination of a greater purpose. God will not only triumph, he will vindicate his name before all creation, making it clear that his governance has always been just, his love always genuine, and the freedom he grants an invaluable gift. And when that happens, there will be no doubt, the conflict was never just about power, it was about revealing the true nature of God, a nature of justice, mercy, and unwavering love. and even the enemy will be unable to deny it. From the very beginning of this great conflict, God's ultimate victory has never been in doubt. But it is fascinating to realize that this victory is not based on brute force or sudden annihilation. Satan's fate and that of his followers is sealed, not through violent imposition but through the flawless unfolding of a plan that spans ages and generations. The apparent delay in fulfilling the promise of defeat is not a sign of weakness or hesitation but a strategy that reveals divine wisdom at its highest level. Every passing moment is a piece in the grand mosaic God is creating, and not a single one is out of place. There is one detail that makes this plan even more remarkable: God could, in fact, end this rebellion at any moment. But the central issue has never been merely to end evil, it has always been to demonstrate the complete justice of his decision. He is not only concerned with the final outcome but with the way that outcome is achieved. If Satan were destroyed immediately, as many might expect, the lingering question would remain: was God truly just? True victory is not simply defeating the enemy but showing all creation that evil was never necessary and that good has always been the only true, lasting choice. What is most extraordinary, however, is that this victory is already written, not in theories or speculations, but in events that, at the right time, will unfold inevitably. God's plan unfolds like a masterful narrative where every action of the adversary only serves to fulfill a greater purpose. The end of Satan will not be an act of revenge or a display of disproportionate power, but the climax of a story where love and justice triumph irrevocably. And when that moment comes, it will be under such perfect circumstances that no one will doubt who the true just one is, and why he deserves that title. So, while the conflict may seem to drag on from a human perspective, the greater purpose is fully in motion. Divine power is not found in haste, but in the patience that shapes eternity. The victory is assured, and God's timing never fails. Every step taken is part of a plan that cannot be thwarted. When the final act unfolds, there will be no applause born of fear, but a universal acknowledgement that God has won, not because he is the most powerful, but because he is the most just, the most patient, and, above all, the most loving. At the end of this existential journey, one truth will stand out: the greatness of God's plan will be defined not by the defeat of Satan and the evil he spread, but by the triumph of good echoing throughout creation. What will truly matter is not the destruction of the enemy, but the restoration of everything he corrupted. God's victory will not be measured by the end of a being, but by the renewal of a wounded universe where justice, truth, and love become eternally unshakable. It will serve as a reminder that supreme power is revealed in redemption, turning even the deepest scars into marks of hope. Here lies the most profound question: if the outcome is already guaranteed, why does the story continue to unfold? Because, in this celestial drama, something transcends the mere clash of opposing forces. There is an invitation, a quiet yet powerful call, for each of us to play our part. We are not mere spectators of this grand plan, we are active participants. Every decision, every act of kindness, every choice for what is right, contributes to the unfolding of this monumental story. God's timing is not like ours, but his promise remains: evil will be eradicated and good will reign. Yet until that moment arrives, the question is not simply how or when the end will come. The deeper question is, what role do you wish to play in this unfolding chronicle? You may wonder if your actions hold any weight in the midst of such an immense battle, but the answer is clear: every gesture matters. Every choice for what is right echoes into eternity. The victory is already written, but how will you contribute to it? What legacy will you leave as a testament to this great work still unfolding? So, while the world waits for the final outcome, remember that the most important thing is not the end itself, but how the journey transforms you along the way. The invitation to hope is always open because the future is assured, yet the story, this eternal story, is still being written, and you are part of it. When at last the final chapter is written, the entire universe will witness something never before seen: the glory of triumphant justice, the definitive victory of good, shining like a dawn that never fades. In that moment, all voices will fall silent in reverence, not before a power that destroys, but before a love that restores. The scars of conflict will give way to perfect harmony, and evil, once arrogant and defiant, will crumble under the weight of eternal truth. There will be no more tears of pain, only a song of joy reverberating through time and space, proclaiming that light has always been and always will be greater than darkness. On that glorious day, God's purpose will be fully revealed, and all will see that every moment of waiting, every act of faith, and every choice for good were part of a grand plan, perfect and beyond imagination. And you, who heard the call and stood for justice, will be part of that universal celebration, not as a mere observer, but as someone who helped lay the foundations of the new world. Today, you are God's greatest argument before the celestial court and the living evidence that will even determine the destiny of angels. And when you meet them on the paths of the new heaven and new earth, they will embrace you and say, "Thank you, it was your faithfulness and perseverance that convinced me to stand on the right side." So, as you look to the future, remember, victory is not a distant possibility, it is already sealed, and when the heavens open and the sound of the final triumph echoes, may you be among those who lift their voices in joy, proclaiming, "The struggle is over, and good has triumphed forever."